Welcome to Season 2 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Join hosts Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country as they dive into the world of parks and recreation with a surprise guest each episode. Laughs, leadership, life. This is RecLess.
All right, folks, welcome to episode 26 of RecLess. Hope everyone's feeling a little reckless today. My name is Shane. Got my good buddies Tom and Jay here with me today. Tom, how you doing?
Doing well. Crazy little morning, but I'm here.
Jay, what about you, buddy?
I'm good. I know it's a little impromptu, different time than our typical time, but happy to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was telling Tom before he hopped on, Jay, what we don't have that SmartLess has is a whole booking and admin team. We're doing all this ourselves, and sometimes it doesn't go well. This is episode 26, which is double 13, and I think that got us some today, but we're on track now. We're super excited. You know, talking about some stats, by the way, something that'll surprise you before we get started. Hannah showed me some stuff. Our biggest platform now is Spotify with Tom since the release. And Apple is our second biggest. Very exciting about that. What do you think our biggest demographic is?
What's
age and gender?
I was going to say, what are the options?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 15-year age gaps, you know, from 0 to 15, 15 to whatever.
Jeez.
Any guesses?
30 to 45?
30 to 45. Female is our
Female.
biggest listeners.
Okay.
So,
And you get three attractive.
that's right.
It's the mustache and the beard.
That's right.
Get it. It makes sense.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, let's get started. Before we bring our guest on, I got a quick question like we always do, and I think this will be an interesting one for everybody. Every one of us have presented at a national level, but everyone still remembers their first time. And just wanted to see if there was anything special or unique about that y'all remember from that presentation.
So you're talking first national conference?
First national conference presentation.
Sure. So I could remember it and recall very well. It was towards the end of the conference. So I was permitted to speak at, I don't know, maybe 3-4 o'clock on a Thursday. So wrapping up, and I'm trying to remember, I believe it was the year before Anaheim. So Atlanta, if I'm making this,
I think that's right,
recollection correct. And it was about being a young professional or a student and having a voice and using it, right? So, you know, leveraging what you can, the resources, the network, and not really necessarily being afraid to get involved and jump right in, even though I think there are times where those younger in their career tend to sit back and listen. And, you know, obviously, Shane, you could relate to this, the timing of it. It was right around when we were getting the YPN started. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that coincided with it. I believe it was the year that I was going to be the incoming chair. So just following in your footsteps, it would have been your chair year.
Yeah.
I had a very robust group in I think it was about 8. And so, so it was quite humbling. But we, you know, the 8 of us that were there, we had a great conversation. And the next year, based on, you know, I know a lot has changed, and you guys know a whole lot more about the conference program committee and the logistics and how many speakers we have now. And I'm sure that's just grown tremendously over the years. But I was permitted to do the same session as a repeat session the next year in Anaheim. And the numbers, you know, I would say they tripled or quadrupled, maybe had 35 to 40 in the room. A lot of people were in that room that weren't just young professionals the second time around. It was a lot of the admin network and people who had been following what we had been doing as a YPN, because it was relatively new back in Atlanta. So it was great to really kind of get my feet wet, and I didn't get discouraged. Came right back at it the next year and had really good results. So that was my first experience.
Now, because I was on the program committee, I know this, but I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember your score off those 8 people?
No, I don't.
It
Do
was
I
the hi-
wanna?
it was the highest score we had scored.
Well,
Now it's a small sample size. It was 8 people.
I was gonna say you take the average of four people there, or 8 people there, it's gonna be pretty high.
But it was the absolute highest score we had off that conference. I remember we all kind of joked about it at the program committee because it was
That's awesome.
yeah. So yeah, you had the highest score coming out of Atlanta that year. Congratulations, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that. It's good to know. I don't recall that. And I do remember the next year being bumped up one education slot sooner. So it wasn't the last slot on the Thursday, but the second to last.
There you go. It's patience for sure. What about you, Jay?
I absolutely remember it. And it was a panel with 4 of our close friends that I adore in our field. And one of them has actually since passed. So Dirk Richwine was on there. Dirk was phenomenal mentor of mine and friend of mine personally on and off of the field. But also on the panel was Chris Nunes, Kara Kish, and Michael Calvert. So we had a great session talking about career development. And, I vividly remember being extremely nervous because we had a large room. And, when you throw some of those names on a list, with Chris and Dirk and Michael and you get a lot of people. And, for me, having my first time being in a national conference and we had over 100 people in the room, or maybe close to 100, it's obviously a little nerve wracking. And it's funny looking back at it, it was, my part of it was very short. Obviously, when you have 5 people, you're only going to speak for, 10 or 15 minutes, minus maybe some Q&A that are thrown in there too. But it went great. And it definitely got me suckered into really like loving that feeling of being in front of people, speaking more. And I've actually done it at every single conference since in some capacity, whether it's a panel or, Shane's favorites are roundtables. And we did a roundtable the year later and he joined us, even though he says he doesn't like them, but he was there and thoroughly enjoyed himself. So I'll never forget the first time just being alongside those 4 names I mentioned. And, it's something that I look forward to doing every year, every opportunity I can get, whether it's at national or a state conference.
Yeah, I have been looped into roundtables against my will. But I remember I think you have a photo of y'all standing shoulder to shoulder, 4 wide before after that session. And I remember that. I did not attend, but I remember that.
I didn't expect you to attend.
Mine was in Indy. I was with City of Fort Worth as a Fort Young Professional Network. I actually spoke a lot more before the YPN because I had to attempt to speak every year to go to conference.
Yep.
And that was the way that Fort Worth, they had hundreds, they had 300, 400 employees all wanted to go to NRPA. So there had to be a matrix of, did you win something? Were you on something? Or are you presenting? When I was in Fort Worth, I ran a rec center that was landlocked, and a little bit of my privilege showed. My first summer, I took the kids. I found a grant, took them to an outdoor state park, tried to do some on-water application of some fishing and boating, and it was a disaster. And I didn't realize that a lot of the kids in the neighborhood I was running this camp for just didn't have any exposure to that. So I spent that next year creating an outdoor recreation program, but completely indoors. It actually, it won some awards. It won some grants. It got written up in Athletic Business. I actually went all around the country for a while doing some presentations, not for NRPA, for the Society of Outdoor Rec Educators, SPOR, for some of the other smaller outdoor recreation industries in the education network. But I went to Wisconsin, went to Arizona, went to Baltimore, in Atlanta, and did presentations for people in the Texas state parks world, and also did one in Texas. But it was basically how to do an outdoor education program inside. And what's really cool is if you go to this day, you'll see a lot of states that still continue to follow that model where they can go into a school now and they can teach archery, they can teach fishing, they can teach boater education, whatever. They do it all in the gymnasium, which was something that we started in Fort Worth, which was really cool. But throughout my travels, my assistant director in Fort Worth said, you should do this at NRPA. And so I presented it. And in true Shane Mize fashion, I let the moment get me in trouble. So I was cramming the night before, trying to make sure I was ready. And we were up for the gold medal. We didn't win. The whole time I was there, we lost 4 years in a row. I think I was the omen there. But Fort Worth was there. So they had us, because they thought we were going to win sooner or later, they wanted us up front in case we won. You have a big group of people there. And then my session was the first session after opening. I was the first session of the day, first session of the conference. And we had stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning, me and my partner cramming, and I was dead. Y'all know me, I'm not a morning person anyways, and I'm having to be up, dressed really nice, and at the convention center for the opening speaker. And I'd never had coffee before in my life. And y'all know me, I'm not a coffee drinker. I love Monsters. Shout out to Tom's friends, but I don't drink coffee. But I'd grabbed coffee in the past for employees. Hey, I'm going to McDonald's. What do you want? Coffee, 2 creams, 2 sugars, whatever. So I went up. I was dying in the opening session. I went up and got some coffee, and I loaded it up with cream and sugar. And I thought, man, that's the most amazing thing I've ever had in my life. You put enough cream and sugar in anything, you can drink it, right? And so I went down there, drank it, and I just felt alive. And so I did that 3 or 4 more times. So I've had cups of coffee, no sleep, lots of nerves. And I don't know what, cocktail y'all think that happens to impact, but I damn near shit myself. Between we lost, we didn't get the old medal. I sprinted out of the exhibit hall and texted my partner and said, "You're going to have to set up the room." And I had to go find a bathroom, and I've almost never had any coffee since. I definitely haven't had that much coffee since. But yeah, my first presentation, I damn near missed the opening remarks that my buddy started because that coffee hit me in a certain way.
Man, you never know what you're going to hear on RecLess.
No, this is.
I thought y'all would appreciate that. I thought y'all would appreciate that. So, speaking of shitting themselves, our guest today. No, I'm just kidding. So our guest, you can see they put chocolate and mocha. Any guesses so far off just sometimes we get a hint just from the name itself, chocolate and mocha. Any guesses?
I have one only based on the fact that you and I have been talking the last couple of days about conference program committee,
Sure.
And this was kind of a last minute addition. So I'm going to wait to hear there's some hints.
Yeah. So I've been talking with Chocolate and Mocha since October last year about coming on the pod. But I'm glad that they had an opportunity today. We had a spot open up and we were able to get them in. Chocolate and Mocha did their undergrad masters at Cal State Northridge. They have been in the field for over 40 years paid, if you count their part-time experience as a young professional. So this has absolutely been a lifelong career for them. Over 30 years in a full-time role. They've been directors in a couple different cities on the West Coast, and have actually worked in a couple other departments as well. Santa Clara, California, Rancho Simi, Incline Village, General Improvement District, Reno, Santa Lakes. Any guesses? Jay's gone off screen. No, not yet. They love to fish. They're a huge fan of Top Golf. Huge fan.
I know who it is.
And one of the biggest. Go ahead.
We actually had a little conversation about Top Golf this week, if I'm correct, and there was a challenge on the table. So we'll see. Listen,
this person loves Top Golf more than anybody I've ever met, and loves the Dallas Cowboys more than anybody I've ever met. And I'm in the state, and I know a lot of diehards, but this gentleman is a Cowboy fan through and through.
Yeah, this person also, I hate to say it, I lost to this person twice in a challenge this week, and he let me hear it. And not only did I hear it during the competition, I had to hear it after by him singing the Queen song, "We Are the Champions."
I love it. So you know who it is. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. The last thing I would have said was their wife Janelle is a future member of the Real Housewives of NRPA. We see her at conference every year, but we're going to make sure she gets a shirt this year. Who I refer to as affectionately Johnny O, Johnathan Skinner from Lake Elsinore Park Community Services Department.
Skinner.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Thanks for being on the pod, man.
Welcome.
You know what? It's been a lifelong goal of mine, dream, I must say, to be on with 3 learned people as you are. Listening to you guys, and I have notes here. So you guys are a really big hit with middle-aged housewives,
right? Killing it.
Tom, you and I actually did our first speaking engagement with NRPA at the Anaheim. You did Anaheim, right?
Yes, I did. Anaheim.
Yeah, so I did mine with Sven Leff. We did it on celebrations. If you guys know me, I'm really big on celebrating our teams and celebrating, how we're able to do the great things we do. So that was mine. It was interesting because, like Jay, I was like, man, maybe 10 or 15 people will show up. We had over 100. We actually got pretty good ratings. We switched it up this last year. I didn't do it with Sven, but I did it with Nikki Ginger at our last con in Dallas, so it went really well. But one of the things that I love about RecLess is how you bring professionals together. I love toting great things and great people, and I put out that stuff yesterday. Had no idea. Literally, I was doing stuff. I was talking to Jay, and he hates it because I sit there and brag on them all the time. Well, they got the show RecLess and da-da-da. So I was at home, and not the advertising, but the media post went out saying, hey, if season 2 is coming up, if you haven't seen season 1, I'm like, this is my chance to go ahead and let people know about it. So I went ahead and do 2 different posts. I got my LinkedIn page, and then I go on NRPA. Well, between the 2 of those, since I posted, we have over 1,200 impressions of
That's incredible.
You guys.
That's awesome.
Because I think that what we don't do enough in our field is celebrate accomplishments of others. And so I'm really, really big on that. And I'm really, and so after I posted that, right, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting at home. No, I wasn't at home. Where was I at, Shane?
Manicures and pedicures.
Manis and petties. My wife and I, every couple of weeks, that's our date night. We do manis and petties. And then we go down.
That's awesome.
We actually walk down with our little feet all going like this. We go down to our local bar because they know that, I'm sorry, adult beverage location.
Watering hole.
And we went over there and we had a 16-ounce ribeye steak and shrimp. And so, yeah, I'm just really happy to be on the show. I was always saying to Shane and Jay, man, I hope I can get on there,
That's right.
Once you do that, then you made it. So.
Hey, I told you 3 days ago we're going to get you on here. I didn't know it would be this soon.
I love it.
So I work for the city of Lake Elsinore, and part of what I do is I fish. I do all the stocking for the lake. So we had a stocking this morning of 1,200 catfish, and we get them. We're down in Southern California, where we get our fish is up in Merced. So they have to drive 6 hours to get down to us. And I said, well, I'm hoping we can work something out. And Shane's like, well, the guys, I hit up, Tom and I think Jay's already asleep. So I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. I'm like, okay. So I ended up going there, and first when I got there at 5:45, I'm getting a thing from Shane. Okay, you're going to do 8:30 and this and that, and so I was really excited to be on and still be able to stock our fish. It's really beautiful fish out there. So.
It's early Johnathan's time for sure. Let's talk about that fishing derby for a minute, because I think it encapsulates a lot of what happens at times for us. This is a fishing derby that historically has been put on by somebody else. They've pulled out. Now the onus is on that local agency to do it, and y'all are fucking killing it, right?
Yeah, we're really excited. It's called the Dream Extreme Fishing Derby. It started over 12 years ago. And just a little background really quick. We have a TV show that Ronnie Kovac used to do before he passed away. And so he used to come to Lake Elsinore and do a lot of bass fishing and that kind of stuff. He hooked up with the Chamber of Commerce and the local casino. We have a card house that's here, Lake Elsinore Casino. Kind of hard to find a name, Lake Elsinore Casino. And they started doing this fishing derby. Well, it started to expand out to more species. So we do bass, catfish, crappie, carp, and a special fish called the wiper. And that's another story altogether. And so they were doing it for several years. William Johnson, who is a great angler here, we call him the Carp King, because he's not carp, sorry, crappie king. There we go. It's one of the C's. All right. Really good fisherman, knows the lake really well. And so he was doing it, started building up a following. We had, started with 10 teams, that's 20 all the way up to the highest we had was 62. So that's 122 anglers that come. Well, over the years, COVID hit. We didn't do it for a year. Then it used to be a 2-day, then it went to a 1-day. And then after the last one, William says, you know what, I'm ready to pass the baton. And it's okay, that's cool. So we talked to the casino, says, you know what, we don't want to pick up the baton. Oh, okay. Well, I'm an angler. My team that I have is incredible. They can go out and raise money and everything like that. So we decided to take it on. The event is May 18th. And because of this team we team with the Chamber of Commerce, with a local bait company called Bite On. It's a friend of mine, Tony Williams. And at Launch Point, we have this restaurant called The Bobber, and it's run by a concessionaire, John Alacon, who he runs JT Rentals, but he also runs the concession, The Bobber, which is a restaurant on site. And so we've got together as a team over the last couple of days. We have a save the date that's coming out today. Actually, will be posting all over. But we're really excited about this derby because it brings anglers, and it's not only from the Riverside area, where we're located, it brings them from LA and San Diego all up to LA. We have people coming in actually from Vegas in order to fish.
Wow.
So very excited. I can't fish this year in it, but that show I talked about Ronnie Kovac had, when he passed away, it was taken over by a gentleman by the name of Sergio Feinstein and Ron Hobbs, and they changed it to Angler Chronicles. And if people want to listen to it, they're on here in California from 5 to 7 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays on KLAA, Angel Baseball Radio. I go on from time to time to talk about the lake, but they do such a good job. And they actually have a TV show called Angler Chronicles, which is on Saturdays and Sundays. So if people are interested in fishing, they can check that out. And they do a lot of things here. We're a sponsor of the show. And so we're really excited about what's going to happen this year, getting more people in. So it's very exciting. If you can tell, I really love my job.
That's
well,
awesome.
No, I actually think it's really neat because we don't ever talk about fishing on this podcast yet. So I'm curious, and the timing of that conversation is pretty neat because I just got an email the other day from our physical education director for our school district where Mecklenburg County resides, and they were asking if we do fishing programs because they're trying to bring fishing into the curriculum for phys ed. So I'm curious to ask you, are there other partnerships or other programs that you offer from an education standpoint to help people get into fishing?
Well, yes, we do. Actually, the city has been doing a kids fishing derby every year. So we do the Dream Extreme Fishing Derby in May, and then the first Saturday in June, we do a kids fishing derby. We work with Rivco County, which is Riverside County Parks and Recreation. Tyler Brown is the director there, but she's also the president of our state organization, Plug. And we actually applied to them to get some funds to help fund it. We set up a net part of our lake, and we stocked specifically large catfish. Like thousands of pounds of catfish specifically for those kids to learn how to fish. We work with local anglers who come and volunteer their time to teach them how to tie up their rigs, bait a hook, how to successfully take a fish off, and it's usually catfish, as I mentioned. And we do something, Sergio had taught me something, and I do it anyway. It's called CPR. What CPR is, you catch, photograph, and release. A lot of times people get the fish, they don't know what to do with it. They end up throwing it in the trash can. And, for a good aquaculture, if you want to keep it for me, unless it's carp, here we don't keep carp because they're an invasive species and they really hurt our lake. But for the other ones, we like people to go ahead, fish, catch it, photograph it, put it back in the lake, give an opportunity for somebody else to do it. One of the other things too, Jay, that we talked about, that Sergio talks about, and it's cool. It's buy your kid a tackle box rather than an Xbox. Wanting kids to get out more. When I was a kid, I was very blessed to have a dad that got our whole family. There was 8 of us, right? So he was always there. My mom was always there. My dad and I had a connection that the rest of my family didn't have, is we loved to fish. So he took me on my first deep sea fishing trips. I remember going on this one, and they, on the fishing trips, they usually have a pool, and the biggest fish gets the pool money. I was out there fishing. First time I was getting seasick. I actually got seasick and caught the second biggest fish on the boat. So I almost won like $400. And this is at when I was
Nice.
9 years old or whatever. What we say on fishing is the tug is the drug. People are like, oh, I don't like fishing. But once they get that tug and they see that line, they have to pull it in. A lot of people are like, okay, I need to buy that rod, and I need to buy that reel, and I need to buy those things there. So along with that, Jay, is I'm really passionate about teaching people how to fish. First of all, I am no genius angler. I'm a guy, they call me William Johnson, who used to run the Derby. He used to call me the Alabama pajama party. And what he meant by that is, okay, I can get this beautiful thing that Jay and I got from NRPA, and I can use this as a bobber, and then I'll get a hook from someplace else. So I just use whatever. And sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. But getting that opportunity to teach people, at least to get out there and fish, is really important. I have a friend of mine, Patrick Ellis, who is the CEO of Wildemar Chamber. Well, his son has special needs. He's older. And so Liam, he said, hey, Jonathan, I know you like fishing. Do you mind? We're going to go camping at Launch Point. Plug again. Do you mind taking Liam out, taking us out and go fishing? I said, sure. So we went out fishing, got Liam on the fish. He was hitting a bunch of them. I was getting skunked. I'm like, Liam, man, you're doing this really well. He says, yeah, Jonathan, you just got to become a better fisherman. Thank you for that, Liam. Well, fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, he kind of hit me up on a text and say, hey, Jonathan, Liam goes to a school, a transitional school for adults with mental and physical disabilities. Do you mind us coming down there and you maybe teach them how to fish? I'm like, sure. So they brought 14 transitional students down. We fished in the morning. My buddy who fishes with us actually caught a catfish and kept it on a stringer, just in case we didn't catch anything. They got some bites, but didn't catch anything. But we had that catfish for them to take pictures of it, because some of them have never been outside, never had a rod in their hand, and they definitely never have held a fish. So we wanted to be positive and make those kind of things happen.
We had an autistic fishing program in Missouri City where you could literally create. So they got to hand create their own fish attractors, whether we used it with trees or we did it with PVC pipe and some concrete and some buckets. And then we'd put them on the water and they would place it, and then they could map where their fish attractor was. And we would come back, we would bait box some of their fish attractors, so some fish would start to gather there. And then we'd bring them back a couple months later and let them fish from boats at those spots. And man, you're right, the tug's the drug. If they're catching anyone, if they're catching fish, even if they don't want to pull it off the hook, they're having a lot of fun just sitting there. If you ever take someone that you're wanting to have a great experience and they're just sitting there and they're not catching anything, it's miserable for you, because you're just you would give anything in the world at that point for them to catch something. And so, we tried to maximize that. I saw Tom had a question.
Jonathan, I just wanted to thank you for being here, and we'll get into your celebration of our show. I want to mention that in my next question, but we do a fishing derby for kids on an annual basis. We started this not too long ago, but we have a pretty sizable pond in one of our areas, and it's primarily bass, but there's a whole bunch of all smaller fish. There's some carp in there. And you all said it best, I'm not going to go back and rehash, but the excitement on the kids, especially the ones who have never done it before, and they have the opportunity to be there with their parents. And what makes it successful, and I think you alluded to this, and I love how I like how you allude to the plug. I'm going to have to steal that for our shows every time I have a plug now. We partner with the Rochester Bassmasters, plug. They are phenomenal. And we didn't used to do that. When we started it started as a passion project of one of our employees, just like you're passionate about fishing. One of ours was, and they did it, and it was great. We had a couple of our park staff who knew who stocked the pond and knew the area. There's always fish. These kids have a blast. They catch so many, and I've learned so much from having the Rochester Bassmasters in there, terms that I never knew, like lunker. What's Jonathan, can you tell the novices out there what a lunker is?
No, I know what it is, but I can't describe it. I really can't. I mean, it's like
trophy fish.
I love.
It's a trophy fish. It's the big one,
Yep.
Man.
Yep.
See, and wait, you know what? I wish I could share with you guys a picture. I think I showed Jay.
Hannah calls me a lunker.
Well, you are. You're one heck of a catch. Let me tell you. Did I show you that picture of that marlin that I caught?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
So I don't do resolutions. I do goals, right? So my goal was to fish in Mexican waters and catch some kind of fish, right? So my wife and I decided to go on a New Year's Eve. This last New Year's, we went on a New Year's Eve cruise out of San Pedro, went down to Mexico, and I got on one of those excursion trips from the boat, right? So I go on this excursion, and this guy before me, we all get a chance to sit in this chair. That's how you do it. And so we first go out. This guy, we call him Grandpa. He's younger than me, but anyway, he goes out there and he catches a marlin, 120-pound marlin, right? It takes an hour to reel this thing in. So then it's like, okay, Jonathan, it's your turn in the chair. So I'm sitting there, and you guys know me. I'm a clown, so I'm sitting there being silly or whatever. We have lunch that's there, and it says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab a sandwich because nothing's happening. Well, all of a sudden the rod starts going. That one of the guys who's there goes, well, it's Jonathan's turn, right? So I go ahead, I get in the chair, and I'm reeling, and this fish is jumping. Long story short, they bring it on board. It was a 180-pound marlin.
Wow.
Whew. The other thing that was really cool, which I still don't know how I did this, I pulled it in 20 minutes.
I was about to say, those usually take a long time, don't they?
Yeah. Wow. So I pulled it in 20 minthat. So I'll have to send you guys a picture of the marlin. I'm pretty proud of it. But
absolutely.
But the thing is that I kind of mentioned it before. Well, actually, I mentioned it to Shane. What we do is we make people's memories, and everything that we do, whether it's a basketball league or a park that they used to take their kids to, and now their kids take their kids to, or all this other stuff. We're memory makers, and we have an opportunity to do that each and every day, whether we're at work or whether we're just out in the community itself. So I think we're very blessed in doing what we do.
I love that.
So you're 100% spot on. Experiences, memories, things that we can provide to the community is going to be something they'll never forget. But in addition to that, you talking about teaching their kids how to fish, you're giving them life lessons and life experiences that they can continue to do forever. And that's really cool too, because not only are you giving that memory, but like now they might fish in 20 years for the next 20 years, and they may be able to teach their kids how to fish because you taught them.
It's a gateway drug in some ways. I remember when I was making those outdoor ed tours that I was talking about earlier when I was doing presentations. So I would sit at the conference after I'd presented and listen to other sessions. And if we'd had Kathy Capps on, she might be better to articulate it. But more people come through Texas Parks and Wildlife park system by fishing first and then decide they like camping or trail hiking or something else. It is the gateway drug to get people to say, yeah, outdoors isn't as scary as I thought it was,
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was really blessed to be able to do too. Is because we have the campground. I talked about that, and my staff see me out there every morning before I come into work, and so they were like, "Hey, Jonathan, do you mind doing a just some kind of clinic for the people that are camping here? Some of them have kids." And yeah, sure. Again, I just love fishing. If I can do it and have a good time, then that's great. We were able to get a couple of kids on a fish that never caught a fish. One girl that I remember trying to hand her the rod at the beginning, she says, I don't want to touch it. And by the end, she's like, well, Jonathan, is this the right way to do it and everything? So, that, and again, it just doesn't have to be fishing. It has to be something that you have a passion in, One of my passions, and Jay knows this because I did it when we're at CPC is I like making little videos and that kind of stuff. And so made our video of our axe throwing event. And, I had it out the next day and people were like, this is really great. Can you teach me how to do it? Yeah, I'll be happy to. Is if people can find their passion from the things that we find passionate, I think we can pass things along and they'll make the world that much better. Kumbaya.
Yeah. Yeah. We ask a question in our interviews now, and it's geared towards exactly trying to find out what they feel about what we're doing and how we're producing something for a community. And the question is, at the end of the day, what do you want people to go home and talk about when they've had an interaction with you? And I want to hear them say exactly what you said a moment ago, is that we made an experience that I'll never forget. I had this time out there out on the pond or wherever with Johnathan, And I'm not going to forget that. And I can't wait to share it with whoever that may be.
Yeah, we're trying to provide our 180-pound marlin story to those folks. Right.
I'll share a quick story about fishing, and this is not to make it go the wrong way, but my father he loved fishing, and I was fortunate, just like you, Jonathan, that he would take me out and show me, and I'll never forget, I was really getting into it. And then there was one day, and I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but I was reeling it in, no bites, nothing like that. And we're on a bridge, so I could see down pretty well. The lure and whatever I had attached to it that day to bait the fish was coming out of the water, and I saw the mouth of a bass just honestly, it scarred me. At that point, I was like, I don't really know if I want to know what's under the water there. That was actually that was terrifying. So I like to do it from afar, but I'm one of those who keep me away from the water if there's there's a lot of unknown there.
Tom is Xbox over tackle box.
No Xbox.
Hey, Johnny, you mentioned something earlier, and you named yourself before the guys come on, and we named ourselves Chocolate Mocha. I don't want to lose that story. It's definitely not a fishing story, but it's a really cool thing that I didn't even know was possible. So, why did you call yourself Chocolate Mocha? What's the AI story behind that? Because it's
okay. Jay knows the story. I think I told Jay the story, the whole story. Maybe I didn't. I just had played the song. Well, so CPC, they had
Conference Program Committee, for those that don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I always forget what that name is. I just say CPC. Well, they started doing online trainings, right? And they not started doing it, but they started doing it with practitioners like myself, saying, "Hey, can you do a 45-minute session on something?" So I pitched something to them. They said, "Yeah, sure, okay." Well, myself and Giovanni Huerta, who I work with, he came from national TV, Australia TV, did Spanish TV. So we did one. It's called I can't remember the name. Oh, Crisis Management: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Telling Your Story. And so we were telling about the different things that happen here in Lake Elsinore, good things, bad things, ugly things, and how we learned how to tell our story and control the narrative. And so they like that, and we said, okay, well, we can do that in house. We have a great cinematographer. Giovanni is also a great cinematographer as well as being front. And so we were taping, and John Hess is our videographer. And so we were there, and Giovanni and I are always kidding around, and I'm black and he's Mexican, so we called ourselves Chocolate and Mocha, right? So we do this thing, and we're getting all done. We're feeling really good right after taping, and John, his coworker, says, "Listen, I used AI to create a theme song for you guys." I'm like,
blows my mind. The idea that can happen is crazy.
All right. So if you guys don't mind, I'll play the theme song right now. Now, the cool thing is with AI, and if people haven't used AI before, basically it's going to be, you put in certain keywords and it'll take that information and it'll create whatever you want to, whether it's a story, a song, a script, or whatever. That's a great thing. The fear thing is that it could be used as a negative. For instance, somebody could have an evaluation, and you do 360 evaluation. So you have other people evaluate you, but people don't know what to say. So they say certain keywords, and they could write something up that is not true. So, you can have the good and the bad. This that I'm going to play for you right now is really good, because he created it, and we were going to put this on the front of our online, but
sipping coffee to sleep, talking like with some tasty treats. Giovanni and Johnathan, they love the vibe, sharing stories in a chocolatey vibe. Chocolate mocha, voices entwined, bringing laughter, one cup at a time. 45 minutes, the podcast goes, join conversation, let the stories unfold. Sit down, take a seat, let's dive into the world of NRPA online learning, so well world. Johnathan and Giovanni, they're the ones in the know. They'll take you through the 5 W's. Let's get ready to go. Who, what, when, where, and why they wanna break it down. From mariachi to winter fest, I'll make you laugh and stand. chocolate and mocha. The flavor of the spring in this online wonderland. You'll learn like you've never seen.
That's incredible.
And so
That
we have
AI wrote all
Spotify
that.
and a couple other places. No, but that just shows you one of the great things you can
Wow,
see with
cool.
AI, but you can also see how can this be used, negatively. You take a look now, and we were talking about how much Shane is a Swiftie.
That's not true.
It is
That's
true. We've
not
talked
true.
about it on the show before.
I'm just saying.
Oh my
Truth's
God.
coming out.
But Taylor Swift now there's all these AIs about Taylor Swift and all these different things that are going on, and they're all computer generated, and so that's why it's one of the things and actually Jay and I were looking, very hot topic at NRPA, because how do we use it positively in our field, and how do we protect to make sure it's not used negatively?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's amazing. So really quick, before I ask a question, did AI write the music and create, or was that someone that you hired to sing the song?
No, it does everything. So
Everything.
basically what you do, he put in Johnathan and Giovanni, NRPA, conference, online speaking. My thing is the who, what, when, where, why. What are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about Mariachi Fest and Winterfest. And it took all that information, and it took literally a couple of minutes for it to come up. And it might ask, okay, what kind of song base do you want? You want country or hip hop or whatever? So we'll do that. What kind of voice that you want? You can pick your voice. And then it takes all that and it generates what you just heard.
That's
really
amazing.
cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So all right, one way that we've used AI recently relates back to something you said earlier in the episode, and that was celebrating others, celebrating success. So I wanted to just ask you a couple questions on that, or at least one, and then see where the conversation goes. But we've actually used the AI tools in our most recent rounds of award nominations.
Cool.
And so just like you said a moment ago, the who, what, where, why we believe this is special, put it in a small package and ask for an output. And it's been amazing. It's been phenomenal the way that they can take the information that we're providing and present it in a way that really gives some credit in a really polished way, right? So that's one way that we've recently used AI. Aside from AI, just the concept of celebrating the successes of others. Can you share? I think that's very important, and it may get forgotten or pushed on the back burner in the hustle and bustle of what we do on a day-to-day basis. What are some unique ways, or not even necessarily unique ways, that you feel are very important to do so for those around you? And you just did that for our show with a couple phenomenal posts. I sent them, I don't know if you know this, but I sent Jay and Shane a screenshot. I said,
He did.
"You guys, you see this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. So, and they gave
I
me
was really quiet because I already had them booked, so I didn't say anything.
And Shane, when you said you had some booked, I was going to ask, is it Johnathan?
You
And
asked.
I
asked.
did. All right.
You
Okay.
said, is he our next guest? And I didn't say anything because I was like,
So you did that for us. You did it through LinkedIn and through the NRPH. What are some ways that you do that for those around you? Just, for listeners out there who are looking for ways to prop people up.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom, because that's a really, really good question, because, the other two didn't do anything. But I think for me, it really has to come from the heart. It has to be organic, and it can't be forced or pushed. A lot of people think, well, it has to be a monetary thing. And quite honestly, when they look at things, it's people being appreciated for what they do. I am a really big proponent of telling my team all the time that the reason I'm able to go and do the things like participate in the CPC or go speak at a conference or something like that is because they do such a great job. Not that I'm outdated or anything like that, but I trust their judgment and they do great things. And Shane and Jay could tell you this too, Tom, is I'm not usually an I person. It's a we. My team does this. I didn't do that. They're the ones who are out there doing the hard work. They're the ones out there who are doing, the important things to get people in. Something that people forget too is they need to acknowledge and celebrate those who give us the ability to do what we do. So, yes, Shane.
So let me follow up on that, because probably everyone's got a leadership profile and everybody's got strengths and weaknesses in that. Me looking up from the bunker at times and looking back at staff and saying, hey, you're doing a great job at this, is a weakness. Like, I'm a grinder. I could be doing something all day. I expect everyone else to be grinding as well. And I don't always say, excellent job, keep up the good work. So if there are two or three things, because you take to it very easily, that you can tell that you enjoy celebrating people. But if you were going to have two or three just simple ways to do it for someone that maybe it's not as defaulted into their leadership profile, what would you say?
You talk to people, right?
Yeah.
You see your team out in the field. You might see teams from other departments out in the field. Actually going over there, having eye contact and saying, you know what, I really appreciate the things that you do because it makes our community better. That's something that I thank my parents for, because they always instilled in us to be gracious and appreciative of what you have and understand what people don't have. I personally love going out and doing stuff, and I'll actually stop my car, and Public Works oversees our parks and everything. So it's another department. I personally go over there and I go to them and I say, especially when they're all together and they call me Papa J or Skinner. Say, hey, what's up, Skinner? Say, hey guys, I just really want to tell you, I really appreciate everything that you're doing for this community. Because of you, our community is growing and it's becoming a great place. Doesn't cost anything, right? A very short conversation, and it shows appreciation for what they do.
It's got to be sincere though, right? Because we've seen toxic positivity where people think you're faking it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can go the other way. They'll be like, dude, I don't want this guy to come talk to me. Like, he always is just acting like he cares about what we're doing. So,
and that's a really good point, Shane, because I do have other people who look and go, well, Johnathan, he doesn't really mean this stuff. And, and we're always going to have those. But for me, it reaffirmed what I've been taught growing up, is you are appreciative of what happens and those that get you there. One of the other things, Tom, is thanking those that give you the ability to do what you do. A lot of times they don't get the recognition that they deserve. Their bosses are not telling them, they're doing a good job. I believe very strongly in that. And volunteers, I treat everybody, and there's an old story that you treat everybody like they're a millionaire, because you never know when they are. So that volunteer you have there, you might be doing maybe a fishing derby, and you were nice to them at one point in time. They go, hey, listen, I actually own a company that does XYZ, and let me help you out with this company. Treat everybody with dignity and respect, honestly. And I think that goes a long way. A lot of the statistics and stuff prove that that's what people, money's good, but they also want the recognition and the validation that they're valued.
And to add to that, I don't know about where you guys are, but we've had a lot of conversations here in our department about retention. And I think
your former department.
Correct. So the retention issue can be fixed pretty easily depending on how you treat people and how you actually go down the line and make sure that people know they're valued. And, Johnathan, you hit it right on. It's like, I think maybe sometimes we do it with some of our staff, but not all the staff. And I think, the park ops team that's out there mowing the grass to make sure that the fields are ready for a baseball tournament, they look at things through a different lens, because, we may, when I say we, not us, but some folks may just look at them as park maintenance staff. But the big picture is, if we don't have park maintenance staff, then we don't have tournaments, and we don't have people visiting our cities and visiting our parks and all these different things, that it's a trickle down effect. And, they need to hear the success stories that they're giving the communities because of the hard work they do and how much we value them. So, you're spot on. We need to do it more, and it needs to be genuine, and it needs to be, on a fluid basis that shows the impact that they're doing throughout their career and how that impacts everything else that we do.
You're absolutely right, Jay. And the thing is, I'm going to be doing a session here in California, actually the CPRS, and at the end of February on the same kind of thing. You know, back to you, Tom, what you were talking about. There's several different ways to do it. There's the heartfelt. There's the monetary too. One of the things that I wanted to do for my team, because we took on additional projects and programs and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that they realize that I'm really grateful for them being part of the team. So what I did at Christmas is I got them all CSD shirts,
Oh, that's awesome.
Community Service Department. But what I did, and this is mine, Papa J, you see the year, that's the year that they started.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And so every staff person got one of those. And I, again, I pay for it out of my pocket because I didn't want them to have any kind of monetary thing. But this is my family. I'm with them more than my wife. Well,
sure.
There's a lot, so that doesn't count. But I'm with these people, sometimes 12 hours a day, if we're doing a special event. And so they wear this proudly because they know that it really comes from the heart. My volunteers that come and work for the city, I like going to each and every one of them, thanking them for what they do. We talked about, gratitude and appreciation for those outside. We mentioned Launch Point Campground. It was called La Lagoon before. It was a horrible campground. We literally blew it up because it was on septic. So now we're on water, sewer, and electric, everything like that. We have these things called yurts, which are soft-sided cabins, basically. And there's a construction company, Josh and Dreesen Construction, that personalize each one of the yurts. They have a special deck that they have in front. And so it's really interesting. Some of the boards go this way, some of them go this way, and he made each one differently. So while they're doing the construction, I go out there and I go, hey, Josh, come here. And he comes over and we're looking and says, you see that right over there? And some of his guys were screwing in the bolts, the wood screws in. And I said, each one of those screws is a memory that you're making for somebody that's coming here to the campground. Yeah. So for decades, you are going to be making somebody's memory.
Oh my gosh,
I never thought about that. I said, yeah, people look at the immediates and think this is the end all of whatever happens, but everything that we do, and gratitude is and appreciation is one of those. When we do that, it actually helps perpetuate it to other people. Now, Shane, you bring up a really good point. I have people that I work with. So we did this evaluation, right? And this evaluation, you go in, you take a test, and it tells you what your positive things are. So go figure mine. First one is positivity. Right. Second one is woo, because I'm really excited. Harmony, adaptability, developer, restorative, connectedness, includer, activator, and arranger. All these are like positives. But then there's other ones who are very number driven and all those things. So they don't have the same acronyms that I do. But if you work together, you can build on each other's not weaknesses, but opportunities for success, as I call it, to be a better person. So somebody who doesn't like my boss, he's a very smart, genius guy, but he's not a touchy-feely kind of guy. I am that kind of person that loves the excitement, that loves the accolades. So what I will do, if my team does something great, I will go ahead and create an email or an information with pictures and everything like that, send it over to him that he can share with council. So he's able to do that woo thing that he can't do, where I'm able to help him with it.
Yeah, we've talked about stuff like that with the Working Genius too. It's this, you can't be all things, right? You need a tapestry of other folks helping you. And I think it's a great spot to end. We've got a heart out. Johnny, good grief, dude. I feel like we could obviously talk for 3 more hours with you. And this has been fantastic. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, yeah, this has been awesome.
I can't wait to really hype this one up since I got to speak.
Yeah.
What did I say? The middle class sexy guys.
That's right. we may change our name.
Yeah, that's it.
But I really appreciate this opportunity, you guys. Thank you. You have a blessed day and carry on this great work of recklessness.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for being on, Johnathan. I can't wait to. I'd love to continue the conversation with you offline. I'm going to steal that jersey idea. I hope you don't mind. I also need to get some marriage tips from you because the mani petty thing, I'm pretty sure it would go a long way.
31 years. So it's not, Tom, it's not stealing, it's creatively acquiring. So
That's right. Great. We just talked about that in our last episode.
Maybe the four of us and your wife can go get manis and petties in Atlanta this year.
Bro,
Right.
that would be so cool. I'm all over it.
First time for everything.
Yeah.
A RecLess outing. Last thing I want to mention for Jay. Jay, I don't know if you knew this, but the shirt that you can see in the background, that's Ron Swanson.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the guy that we may have hypothetically interviewed at a state conference. So Jay, I know you're not up on the Parks and Rec, but that's what he looks like.
And that shirt says Ron fucking Swanson. So it's
it says effing. It's in a city building.
It's censored. It's censored.
Johnny O, brother, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much.
Man, that was awesome. It's like we bellied up to the bar with Johnny. And that's what it's like when you belly up to the bar with Johnny. He is amazing. He can talk for hours, but what I always take for granted and I'm always reminded of when I'm with him is how much he cares about people.
Yeah.
He cares about people so well.
He will truly inspire you because, he just talked about the positive traits that he has and he talked about positivity and he's always positive. And I've known him now for probably 5 or 6 years. And he truly is always positive and always just gleaming with joy. And that will just funnel off to other people. And then when he talks about his passion to help others and make a difference, how can you not want to just emulate that? So he's so fun to talk to because, it's contagious.
Even if you meet him and the first time you say, no one can be this positive, by the time you've been around him 4 or 5 years, you're like, no, that's just the way he is.
All the time.
This was a real treat for me. We almost, for the listeners who actually stick around for this part, we almost did not have this episode happen for a few reasons, one or another. And I don't have the experience and exposure to Johnathan that you all do. I literally, may have met him once in passing. And then yesterday, those posts he put up about RecLess were some of the most flattering reviews we've ever had. So to not have the experiences you have had and had that conversation with him was a real treat. Shane, great job.
He's a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for being on. We'll see. I appreciate that. We'll see you next week. Next week? Do we have one next week?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay. Folks, thanks for listening to this episode of RecLess.
Awesome. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.